Yo, shalom, shalom, dumelang sanbanani jambo enlo this is your bro Amiel, aka Muheberua Azania, welcoming you to Edenic Truth Institute. This is a presentation titled The Benefits of a Plant-Based Diet. So what do we mean by a plant-based diet? So by a plant-based diet, we are referring to a diet, I guess it is a specific diet that does not include animals or animal byproducts. That means that it is an animal-free or an animal meat-free diet. And also it does not include any animal byproducts, that is eggs, milk, etc. So that is what we mean by a plant-based diet. So we'll be looking at the benefits of a plant-based diet within the following categories: from a scientific, spiritual, biological, social, and environmental basis. So that is what the presentation today is about. I hope that you guys will enjoy the presentation. You will draw some insights and that you will share, subscribe, like, and comment. Certainly, I would like to hear your comment, your knowledge, your opinions on this video as well as on a plant-based diet. So let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will enjoy. So, what are the benefits of a plant-based diet from a scientific perspective? If you look at the image here, it says it is an image of a periodic table of fruit. Now, what we are to draw from this here is, as it relates to elements and minerals, from a scientific perspective, for those who have done science in school, for example, we know what is called a periodic table of elements. Now, we must understand that all of the elements, all of the minerals that are in the earth are also the building blocks for our bodies. In other words, all of the minerals in the earth can also be found in our bodies. We can therefore say that our bodies were created from the minerals of the earth. Now, we might understand that the whole reason that we eat, the whole purpose of nutrition, of eating, is that we are supposed to then intake these different minerals into our bodies again, and that when we have the right amount of these minerals, that is what we call health. Now, the benefit of a plant-based diet is that we get these different minerals, the building blocks of our bodies, we get them in their primary form. What do I mean? Well, the wisdom of plants is that plants, the roots of a plant, go into the earth and then they absorb the different minerals in the right trace amount. And now when you consume a plant, you are getting the edible form of these different minerals, and then they replenish your body, and then that is what we call health. Because understand that by our very nature, by our very physiology, we are unable to dig into the ground, firstly, and then to draw out the iron in its raw or ore form, and then consume it as it is. Yet our bodies do require iron, magnesium, calcium, etc. So then that is the wisdom of plants. Plants go into the earth, they absorb the minerals, they convert it into an edible form. And then when we consume these plants and fruits from the plant, etc., then we get these different trace minerals and elements in the right amount, and then we are able to then replenish the minerals in our bodies, and that is what we call health. I said that eating plants is getting the primary form of these minerals. That is because remember that all of these minerals are found in the earth. That means when you consume a meat-based diet, then you are getting the secondary form of these different elements and minerals, because then the animals themselves get the different minerals, the calcium, etc., from the earth. And then when they eat from the plants of the earth, the grass, the plants, the fruits, etc., then they get the primary form of these different minerals. Now, when you go and consume the animals, and remember that primarily people consume herbivorous animals for that reason, because then we are able to get these different minerals and elements from these animals that people consume. But then when you consume or when you get them from the animal, it is now in a secondary form. But rather, when we go directly to the plants from where the animals themselves got these different minerals, then we understand that we are getting them in a much superior form. And that is the benefit of a plant-based diet from the scientific perspective. We have a intricate physiological connection with the earth because all of the minerals in the earth are in our bodies, because these minerals are the building blocks of our bodies. So that is the plant-based diet from a scientific perspective. Now let us look at the next benefit. So looking at the benefits of a plant-based diet from a spiritual perspective, I think I should firstly state that from our perspective, spirituality and science are not two separate domains or entities in terms of knowledge, etc., but rather that they are the same. They are the same. In fact, I refer to spirituality as a natural science, and I will explain further in other videos what do I mean that spirituality is a natural science. But getting back to the spiritual aspect of the elements and minerals in the earth, or rather a plant-based diet. Now we understand, as we said in the first slide, that the whole concept behind the roots of a plant is that they go into the earth and then they absorb the different minerals that are in the earth. And then when we consume the plant, then we basically replenish our bodies with these same minerals and elements that are in the earth. Now, if we go into the book of Genesis, we find again that there is a correlation between the book of Genesis and science. And that is why I am saying that there should be no or rather, there should be a correlation. There should be no contradiction between science and spirituality. And where there is a contradiction, then we must ask ourselves, because there must be a problem somewhere there. So now we see that in the book of Genesis, it reads as follows. In the English, it reads as follows. And the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground. But then if we go into the original Hebrew language, then the word that has been translated as dust is the word afar. And that is the word actually means substance. And we know that the substance of the earth is actually the elements and minerals in the earth. So we can see that science, from a scientific perspective, we can prove with certainty, that all of the different minerals and elements that are in the earth can be found in our bodies. And that correlates with the Genesis 2:7, which states that the minerals, or that man was formed from the minerals of the earth. Now, interestingly, again, if we look further into the Hebrew language, the original Hebrew language in terms of this verse, then we find that the word for earth is the word Adamah. The word for the ground, the earth, is the word Adamah. And we know that actually the word Adam is not only a word that refers to the male species, but actually to humanity as a whole. So, in other words, if we read Genesis 2:7 from its original language, in its original Hebrew language, then we get the following message. It reads as follows: And the Lord God formed Adam from the substance of Adamah. So we see that there is a close correlation between Adam and Adamah that speaks to an intricate connection between the earth and ourselves, or our bodies, because our bodies were created out of the minerals of the earth. Now, again, we did say in the first slide that the whole purpose of nutrition, the purpose of eating, is that we are able to replenish ourselves, our bodies, with the different elements and minerals in the earth. Another way to look at this and to understand this is that if we are living entities, if we are living souls, then we must understand that the different elements and minerals in the earth must be living, conscious entities as well. Now, the benefit of a plant-based diet is that you are getting these different minerals, these different elements in their pure form, exactly as they are in terms of how we are supposed to consume them. Because again, we said that the plants, what they do is that they convert them into edible forms. And then when we convert the different plant matter, then we get the pure form of these different minerals in the right trace amount that will then assist us to maintain a good health or good health. So that is the benefit of a plant-based diet from a spiritual perspective. We are created from the minerals of the earth. So there is an intricate connection that we have with the earth and the minerals of the earth. So good health means that we have these different minerals in the right amount. So let's move on and look at another aspect of the benefits of a plant-based diet. So then, what are the benefits of a plant-based diet from a biological perspective? I think that what we will find here is that the biology, the spirituality, and the science, that there is a close correlation between these three. And understandably so, because if science is a science and spirituality is a natural science, and biology is likewise a natural science, then we should see that there should be a close correlation between all of these different aspects or bodies of knowledge. So then we ask the question, for example, when we look at the different animals, we find that the different animals, as an example, there are different categories or classifications in terms of what the different animals that are on the earth, the different animals in the earth, and what they consume. What do we mean by that is that, for example, a carnivore has a specific diet for which it is designed. An omnivore is those animals that have specific diets for which they were designed. And then we have herbivores, etc. And then we find that all of these animals, in other words, the omnivores, the herbivores, herbivores, etc., that all of these different animals, they actually consume a diet for which they are calibrated. Now, the question is, do we as human beings actually consume a diet for which we are calibrated? And if so, what is that diet for which we are calibrated? In other words, how do we check which diet we are calibrated for? Is that we look at our physical anatomy, our body, our physiology. In other words, we look at the jaw structure, we look at the intestines, we look at, as I said, the dental structure, we look at the paws, the hands, the feet, etc. So just the biology, the physiology of the entity. And in this instance, then we are talking about the human being. So now when we look at the intestines, the jaws, the dental structure of humans, then what are we actually designed to eat? Have you guys ever thought of that? And have you ever considered that perhaps we know that human beings at this time in history that we are plagued by so much in the way of illnesses, cancers, diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. Could it be that part of the problem or the main problem is that we are consuming a diet for which our bodies have not been calibrated to eat? I'll make the following example. Think about it, that you go to a shop and you go to the manufacturer. And the manufacturer, you go to a store, to the showroom to buy a car. You get to the showroom and the manufacturer of the vehicle, then they tell you that this is the type of oil you are supposed to put into that vehicle. They tell you that this is the amount of tire pressure. They tell you that this is the type of fuel you are supposed to put into the sole, the body, the chassis of that vehicle for it to take you or for it to work for certain number of years. Let's say you come out of that showroom, you go to the garage, and then instead of putting what the manufacturer said in terms of a fuel, let's say the manufacturer said the fuel you're supposed to put in there is a diesel, that the engine is a diesel engine, but you go to the garage and then you put in a petrol, or you put petrol into that vehicle. What do you think is going to happen to the life span of that vehicle? Will it last you as long as what it is supposed to last you? Let's say that the manufacturer gives you a guarantee. He says that if you follow these instructions in terms of how to uphold and upkeep this vehicle, if you put in the right fuel, if you put in the right tire pressure, the right oil, etc., he says that this vehicle will last you for 20 years. Now tell me, if you go and do the opposite, then what will happen to your vehicle? Will we not find that the lifespan of that vehicle will be greatly decreased, and that you will begin to experience certain problems with that vehicle? Now, could it be that the different illnesses that we are experiencing as humanity is a direct result of us not consuming the diet for which our bodies were calibrated? Now, if we look at the different classifications in terms of the different physiological classifications or anatomical classifications of the different animals, we find that human beings actually fall under what are called frugivores, meaning actually our bodies were designed for a primarily fruit-based diet, meaning we are supposed to eat primarily plant-based diet, but not just a plant-based diet, a fruit-based plant-based diet, or what may be called a frugivorous diet. And again, that means that we are consuming a diet primarily composed of herbs, of fruits, and nuts, etc. Now, we know that most of us do not even consume enough fruits, yet that is exactly what our bodies were supposed to, or our bodies are calibrated, our physical anatomy, our physiology, that our intestines, our bodies themselves are calibrated, and they are built that we are supposed to eat fruit primarily. So we see then why then perhaps we are facing so much in the way of physical ailments, etc. Now, again, we spoke about a correlation between biology, between physiology, and spirituality. Now, if we go into the book, into Genesis 1 and 29, we are given a very specific diet as human beings. We are advised to eat a plant, that is, we are advised to eat of every tree that has fruit bearing seeds. That is the exact diet that we are given as human beings. So we see that from a spiritual perspective, from the book of Genesis, in terms of a plant-based diet, eating from trees from that are, or rather eating fruit from trees that have seeds in them, that we see that we have completely deviated from this spiritual diet, or from this diet that goes along with our spirituality, which is a plant-based diet. And we see that that specific diet, that it correlates with the biology and the science. So let us look further into other benefits of a plant-based diet. Now, looking at the aspect of animal rights activism and ecological reasons for a plant-based diet. So again, as already mentioned, I guess, so by going towards a plant-based diet, you automatically become an animal rights activist. What that means is, for those who perhaps have done research or have been exposed to the modern so-called farming environment, you might know that the conditions in which the animals are subjected to, the same animals that are reared for human consumption, that they go through some of the worst conditions, some of the worst abuse of any beings on this planet, or any beings can literally go through and face on this planet. So it's the worst type of abuse, the worst unnatural types of conditions that they are being kept in. Basically, they are removed, many of the animals are removed from their natural environment, kept in certain storehouses and environments wherein their only existence is for human consumption. In other words, they live to be eaten, if we can put it that way. So that is part of the abuse that animals goes through just for an animal, for the sake of human consumption. Now, this is not to judge anyone who is on a meat-based diet, but this is simply to mention the facts of the conditions in terms of what the various animals have to go through because of such a meat-based diet. Guys, again, this is not to judge. This is simply to put the information out there so that we can make informed decision regarding our diet, whether it's for animal rights or for our own bodies, our own health. So that is part of the reason or the motivations for, or rather, one of the positive aspects of turning towards a plant-based diet is that you become an animal rights activist. I believe that each and every one of us who eats less meat, so to say, that there are lives that trickle. There's an effect in terms of the number of animal lives that are saved. So there's also the aspect of global warming, because the same environment, the same places wherein these animals are kept, that they are largely known to produce what are known as greenhouse effects. And the greenhouse effects in turn cause what is known as global warming. So we see that the meat industry contributes a lot to what is known as global warming as well. There's also deforestation. Deforestation speaks to the land, the area, the land mass, or the areas wherein these animals are kept. So what happens is that there is what is called overgrazing, whereby the animals, because there's a large number of animals within a small space or within a certain space, that they end up consuming whatever grass, so to say, or plant matter that exists within those areas. And then they have to move, or they have to be moved onto other grasslands, and to make space for these extra grasslands wherein these animals will be kept, there is sometimes, or most times, a lot of trees that have to be cut so that the ground or the area can be prepared to become and land or can be prepared for animal grazing. So then we understand that our oxygen needs, I don't really need to go into the importance of oxygen, etc. But we understand that the rate at which the forests are being cut down, that eventually it will, or it is literally affecting the oxygen, the levels and balance and air within the environment. So we understand the importance then of cutting down on a meat-based diet, because then it means that the rate of deforestation will greatly decrease. So that's another reason for going towards a plant-based diet. Another one is water conservation. It is said that for just a piece of meat, there's about 100 and something liters of water that is used. I don't have the exact number, but quite a lot of water is used in the meat industry just to produce a single piece of steak, so to say, or a burger, so to say, that there's so much water and energy that goes towards creating that piece of meat that is consumed within a few minutes, yet so many liters of water have been used up for such. So we see that overall, there are so many benefits towards turning to a plant-based diet, both for the animals themselves, for ourselves, and for the environment. So that is one of the reasons for us to turn towards a plant-based diet. So last but not least, one of the aspects or one of the benefits of a plant-based diet is in the, or what we may call, longevity. So there are these areas around the world that are known as blue zones. And so these are areas, basically blue zones are areas wherein the people, the individuals, the groups of people who stay in these zones, these blue zones, are known for longevity or for living long or for long lifespans. Now, one of the common denominators in these zones, and I say common denominators because these are not specifically areas or places where people live primarily on a plant-based diet, but rather the common denominators as they were looking at the different factors and reasons why these individuals tended to live such a long time is that they found that one of the common denominators was a plant-based diet. So we find that a plant-based diet adds to the vitality, to the health of a person, and therefore contributes to longevity. And that is why the blue zones, why it was found and identified to be a common denominator in these blue zones. So we see then that a plant-based diet has that extra or added benefit of longevity. And that is it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, were able to draw some insights from this video, that you have learned something that you did not know previously, and that perhaps it has empowered you to make better choices, because that is what it is about. It is about having the ability to make a better choice. Remember, we come from a world, a reality wherein other people were making choices. Other people who were not specifically interested in our health and our well-being. So we are being re-empowered to make those choices for ourselves. And that is what Edenic Truth Institute is about. It is about sharing with you that information, those insights, that knowledge that will allow you to make choices and to make better choices. This is it. This is your bro, Amiel BY. I hope that you will share, like, subscribe to this channel, and that you will leave your comments, because I would certainly love to hear more of what you know, your experiences, your knowledge, your insights as it pertains to the plant-based diet. Once again, this is your bro, Amiel BY, aka Muheberua Azania. And please do join us for further presentations on health, on spirituality, on current events, news, what is happening, technology, science, spirituality, religion, and any other topics of interest. That is what this channel is about. It is about offering different views and perspectives on all of these matters that do affect us.